up, Evil Dead fans? In this video, we're going to talk about the Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness Homelite chainsaws. What to look for, the details, and different models to look for on eBay, pawn shops, private sellers, garage sales, things like that. So let's get started. So what we have right here is a Homelite XL. Now this one is very specific. You're going to find a lot with this top handle. When looking for Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, you want to look for this top handle, of course. So that's one thing you want to look for. You're going to find a lot of them like it, so you're going to have to really look at the starter cover, which we'll talk about in just a second. It'll have to be that hard ABS plastic. Another thing is this little lump right here, this bar. You need to have that. This one had a guard on it at one point. Now, if you're doing the non-working AOD, you're going to want to keep that guard. This one's off of it because this one's kind of beat up and it would need a full repaint, so I'd have to put that guard back on. Now, I'll go over that in a future video series about how to make the Army of Darkness chainsaw. So those two things right there. Again, this doesn't have the sharp edge right here like the Ash vs. Evil Dead. This one has the full block up here all the way to the edge. That's what you want. And one big thing is this little hump right here. You can see there's a hump down, and then you have this. You want it even with that. That's what you need. Now, other than that, there's not a lot of differences when it's cut up, but that's the main differences for the AOD and Evil Dead 2. Now, when it comes to Evil Dead 2, if you're doing a flat top, of course, you want to get rid of that guard and use that for screw holes and brackets and such. Now, let's talk about the Bandit. So there is two Bandits you can find. Now this one is wrong, has every detail that this one has. You can see it's a darker shade. This one's lighter. The Army of Darkness Evil Dead 2 was actually this more orange color. It's not that crappy peeled away look like I talked about in the past video. I think it was the first part of this series. So you have to repaint it anyways. One thing you'll notice is right here, here's the difference. You can see that inner hump. This one's extended. This one is not. So this one's wrong. It's very, very close. If you have this and you want to use it for Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, go ahead. I mean, you don't have the guard right here. If you're doing Evil Dead 2, you really don't need the guard. But what's nice about this, you have the inner spots where the holes are supposed to go. So you just drill those out. So this is a good substitute if this is all you can find. Again, also with the starter cover, we talked about this in the last two videos, talked about the big eyelet that can be fixed and changed. Other than that, and this somewhat being angled a little different, it's exactly right. So this can be used as long as you know how to fix it. Now right here, you can see a starter cover that I have repainted. You can see the original paint on the inside, and then on the outside, it matches. I needed that orange red look. They actually don't sell the proper paint color, but in that AOD series, I'm going to talk about how I painted this. It has this proper piece right here. It was actually just like this Bandit with the bigger eyelet, and put that spacer in there. And I'm gonna plan, you can see it's a little rough. I really don't care. That's fine. This is for my own personal use. I'm gonna put a spacer on the inside of that so it looks shiny and nice, but that's really what you're looking for right there. Now, going back to this Homelite, this unit number 10618-A, you can say, Brett, this is the perfect one. Well, no, there's actually ones that are a little more accurate, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. This is 100%, except for this starter cover. The starter cover right here is not. This starter cover, as you can see, this has a kind of scoop, kind of bent angle here versus the straight, like this one, and the straight is what you want. So I did double check my references and things like that to see if there was any of these used, and there wasn't, so can't use it. Another thing you're gonna find with this body that's crazy is down here. You can see it's nice and smooth. But if you look at like the Bandit, or if you have the Ash vs. Evil Dead style, you'll have these little tabs. So all the ones that I found that are this, they have no tabs. And another thing is where's it at? This one doesn't have it either. But you'll find on the Ash versus Evil Dead body styles, they'll have a couple little lines right here, raised lines that you have to grind down. Luckily with these ones you don't when you're doing the front brackets. Now, I'm gonna show you this right here. I'm working on this right now. This is gonna be an Army of Darkness body. I already said I was gonna make a future video series of it. Original muffler, cut down to the non-working look, block, everything. And you can say, well, Brett, this doesn't go away to the front. No, that's only in Ash versus Evil Dead. This one goes right to that hump, and then it is almost straight. It's just cut back just a little bit, because I looked at views of like this way to see that it is cut back just a touch. And yeah, I'm starting to work on this. You can see that I have a line drawn out here. We'll go over that later about the brackets for the non-working AOD chainsaw. So now let's talk about the bodies you should look for when trying to find the Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness body.
Okay, now let's talk about the models to look for. Now when it comes to the Bandit, now this is a Bandit body right here. There is a specific Bandit you can get that has the proper looks, the main body, not the starter cover. Here's the starter cover right here. It has that big eyelet. So this is incorrect. Reference back to my other videos, the last two, about fixing this to make it right for Evil Dead 2, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and Army of Darkness. But there is a body, a Bandit body, to where this little hump actually is recessed back that you saw earlier in the video. This one is incorrect. It is very, very close, so if you have it, there's nothing wrong with using it. That's just the only difference, is just that hump is just extended out just a little bit more into the middle of the stip rather than even with this line right here. So if you have a Bandit, you're not too picky, it's a perfect one to use. It also still has this little hump in here that you have to have the right body. So there is a Bandit that does match. I've never owned a full one of those Bandits. The chainsaw body I got from Chris Pollock, or the Evil Dead 2 I got from Chris Pollock, was the proper Bandit, but he had to also put in a different starter cover to match. Next, we're gonna talk about this one. This one is a Homelite XL, has the sticker. This is the starter cover for it. The unit number is 10618-A. Now, this one is 100% correct. This one is here. It has the proper guard. Again, I said earlier, don't take the guard off unless you have to do a repaint. You want to save that guard. I am going to do a series pretty soon on doing the AOD non-working chainsaw, so stay tuned for that. But if you look, the hump is in the right place. This little hump lines up versus the Bandit, this specific style Bandit. You can see it is different. This one is 100% correct. Problem is, starter cover's wrong. You can see right here, this is rounded. It doesn't have that straight look that you can find on different starter covers. You can see it's straight, this one has a hump. It's got that curve in it, right there. This one's straight. And finally, there has been a lot of people who have run across chainsaws that are correct to Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Are they the bodies? Well, no, they're not. They are exact, but there's just a couple things that are different. They're called the Homelite XL SLs, or even the Super 2 SLs. Now, the bodies, they match 100%, except for this one thing. The starter cover. Not the starter cover, sorry. It's the body. They have these two holes drilled into it for something to do with the chainsaw operation. So that's the only difference. So if you have one of those, you'll need to get some milliput, fill those in. That is the only difference. I mean, you'll have to do a repaint, so you'll have to take that guard off and replace it, which I'll go over in a future series about AOD, the non-working AOD chainsaw. So if you have the Homelite XL SL or the Super 2 SL, you'll have to fill those in because they aren't anywhere on those. So what can we come to a conclusion about the Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness chainsaw. One thing we do know, it is this hard plastic body. I am not sure on the exact model they used because I always find just one thing that's a little different. Again, Chris Pollock, when he did his, he had the correct body, but he had to get different starter covers to match. So you can use everything that I mentioned. If you want it super accurate, find this one, different starter cover. This is that Homelite XL 10618-A. If you want something super close, you can go with the Homelite, this specific Homelite Bandit. Well, like I said, again, there is a Bandit body that matches 100% except for the starter cover. So you're gonna have to find a different starter cover. And those SLs, Super 2s, and the Homelite XL SLs, you'll have to fill in those holes up here, but everything else matches. So I don't know what the exact body is. I don't know for sure if they just pieced it together. They bought a bunch of them. I heard from somebody there was 2 or 3, and then I heard they had a bunch of them from other people, some people actually who worked on it and was there for it. So I don't know. My personal opinion, this just my opinion, is that they pieced it together. So that's my guess. That's just a guess. So that's the only thing I could come up with. So with that being said, stay tuned. The next series I'm gonna do is a full Army of Darkness non-working chainsaw build. Now, what I mean by non-working, it's the one where Ash grabs it with his hump on his hand. And since the museum has a lot of photos of that one, I'm gonna use those quite a bit. And also, I'm going to use the film. But I will also go over paint, because if you look at this starter cover, this is what I'm using. It looks pretty good. Well, it all had to be sanded. And of course, this one right here, this one was sanded. You can see it's still sanded, it's a lot brighter. But if you look on the inside here, that's the natural color of this one. It needs to be like an orangish red. And if you flip it, I matched it. And I'll show you how I match that in that series of how to build an Army of Darkness chainsaw. So stay tuned for that. God bless everyone who's watching and people who aren't as well. Until next time, you guys stay groovy.